What up, everybody? Lonnie here with Charts and Labs. Happy Friday. Hope everyone's having a good day so far, wrapping up the week and heading into the weekend. January is almost over. How quick and crazy is that? I'm going to jump in and make a quick video on TXC. I kind of want to talk about the risk reward ratio, the RRR. Um, and where there could be some benefit in TXC at these rock bottom prices. But before we jump into that, I want to remind everybody that this is just an opinion. I'm just sharing my views on the market and sharing some insight to hopefully give you some comfortability to make these decisions um, yourself with your money, your way, kind of thing. And hopefully, we're all getting wealthy. Um, so this is not financial advice, but let's take a look at some things. What we're looking at with TXC is a very early project, and there is a little bit of uncertainty right now. Uncertainty creates doubt, and doubt creates a susceptibility to listening to or falling for or being fearful. And a famous investor said that when there's blood in the streets, buy real estate. And we can look at TXC, and we can see that there was a euphoric run up, heavily pushed by FOMO at this point where we accelerated quickly. Also driven by a promotional period that caused some extra buying into TXC, pushing that price up. And that's where this huge explosion went. And then once it hit the beyond the euphoria, and as soon as somebody starts selling, everybody starts selling. And the bigger issue is, as you can see, how volume fell off so heavily from this range up here where volume was very large. This fall off in volume is what created the pullback. When there's a lack of volume, there's lack of buying, and lack of buying is worse than more selling. If there is increased selling, as long as there is equal buying pressure, or at least consistent buying pressure, that won't affect too drastically. But when there is no buying pressure, any kind of increase in selling pressure or a lack of buying pressure will create a sharp decline. And we're looking at this sharp decline right here from these large wicks that have crossed through this, broke this, but came back and is retested, looking to maybe test this again. So we're seeing a severe downtrend on TXC, far from what its previous uptrend was, where it had great momentum rolling across this, and it stayed very close to the volume weighted moving average, where the price did not run excessively. The break here is what caused the gap from volume, and this price disconnect caused this sharp come down. And then we got into this little ping pong back and forth. People are taking profits. It's also a mixture of the psychology of 5, 10, 15, 20. You're going to see a lot of people will take profits at 5 because that's a big round number. And then you also saw that this ran up and then went all the way below 5 before coming back to 5, and then nobody wanted to miss out on this opportunity at 5, so the increased selling caused all this, and then the inability to get above 4 triggered it again. Whole dollar increment caused everybody to panic and see that they wasn't going to get over 4. So then you also saw people who stopped buying because what they didn't want to be part of, they didn't want to buy if it was going to go down. And we also see with TXC that there is a very limited amount of people who are active in the markets. Most of them are predominantly miners in the passive state, where they are okay with and following a lower price because they are waiting for the price to go up. They are not doing anything. It is purely the wait and see of the price going up, and that's okay to be that level. This is your risk reward benefits. So just to kind of paint an example and look, and these are the levels that we're going to see for TXC coming back up most likely, based on previous points of support. And now that we're past that euphoric stage, if we only look, here I'll zoom in so that it's a little bit bigger, but we want to zoom and put it right there. We're going to use just this from October because this is when the most people were actually involved in the exchange beyond just early adopters and those who were using DexTrade. October is when all the other exchanges and mostly the USA exchanges were added. And if you look at TXC being a USA based crypto, being able to get it on a US based exchange is why the activity increased on these US exchanges like Pinex and Weebot. So we're seeing this downtrend be tested, and we're looking, is somebody going to sit here and be like, oh no, it's going to go all the way down to 30 cents. Oh no, it's going to go down to 0. It's going to go down to 5 cents. That part we don't know. Eventually, people are going to look at this and see that the value is there to buy it, and the buying is going to cause this to go up very rapidly because there's not a huge, there's not a lot of liquidity in this, so the moves are exasperated and exaggerated a little bit, versus like a Bitcoin that has heavy volume. And what I mean by that is if you look over here, and now that it's a lower price, this volume is getting higher, but 0.53% of the market cap of TXC is its daily volume. And this is the daily volume. It's even down right now. If we come over here and we look at Bitcoin, the OG original, you can see that it's at 2.11. And this is consistently between 1.5% and 4% of its market cap is its daily volume. Its volume is slightly up right now, but not a lot. And that's why this price is a lot more consistent, is because of its volume being so much larger. And so then if we go look at another big one, Ethereum, number 2. Ethereum, 6% of its market cap is its daily volume, and that's down right now from what it was yesterday. Ethereum is a huge utility token. So is Solana. Solana arguably might be the biggest utility token. And I'm going to hang up on Solana specifically for a little bit longer. Look at this 5%, which is up 7%. So a nice increase in volume on Solana. If we go into this weekly and we zoom out, let's look at this chart right here. And just picture this and see TXC's run to 7 all the way back down. This is the equivalence of 40 cents. It's in $48. Run all the way up. Could it get all the way back to 40 cents? Don't know about TXC getting that level. It could be 60, could be 50, could be 40, could be 80 when it wants to turn around and take off. But that takeoff is sharp right here, and then it's flat as it determines what its utility and what its value is. This took a long time from August of 22 to August of 23, a whole year of Solana figuring out its utility. TXC only has 6 months and it's going to figure out its utility. First one is downtown digital dollars, and there's others lined up. Once the utility kicks in and ramps up and accelerates, look at this, and wouldn't you rather be a part of this movement than being a part of this movement? Of course, right? The people that bought in here and missed this are upset when they're back down here and they're like, oh, back to where I was. But hold on. Why panic when you can just wait? Could it be a year? Could it be 6 months? Could it be 1 month? That part we don't know. But once utility is adopted, we see this action. Am I telling you that TXC is going to have this exact same acceptance and dominance? It'll be tough. Solana is arguably the king of utility in the cryptos. They're right there with Ethereum. All the smart contracts and layer 2s that are on these guys is huge. We could look back at Ethereum did the same thing on a little bit of a different scale. Could this be what TXC has in its future? Is a run up, down, back up, down. Wow, that's crazy. It looks a lot like TXC's. And then the utility came on board and people started figuring out that it has a use, and that became more accepted and a bigger value. Huge run up. Oh crap, hold on. had a little bit of a downfall, but way up from where it was, and then it leveled up again. So, what's your risk reward appetite that you're looking to take on? TXC is down right now heavily. To get a 10% return on money put in TXC in the coins at 74 cents, you only needed to go to 82 cents, and that's 10%. You make 50% if it got back to $1. It'd be $1.05 or $1.10, and that's crazy. $1.32 is this level right here. That's not even too far, not even unimaginable. $1.32. If you just were to look at 75 cents from $1.32, we'll just say $1. Oh, clear. 135 divided by 0.75, and that's an 80% return. More than 80%. Yeah, no, that's 80%. Math. Sometimes you would see 80%. To get 80% on Bitcoin, if you were to try to get the same gains on Bitcoin at 80, we'll do 90,000 times 1.8, you would need Bitcoin to get to $162,000. So risk reward. Bitcoin is much more established, much more not going anywhere. It's been around since 2009, on the exchanges since 2011. It's not going anywhere. Is Bitcoin right now going to get to $162,000 before TXC gets to $1.30? It's your risk reward and what's most likely. Is TXC going to ever become $100,000? Maybe not, but that doesn't necessarily mean the value. The value is from when you start. And if you're willing to start in a project that's early, like TXC, your risk reward is higher on both. Higher risk because it's a new project. You don't know what it's going to be fully accepted. You don't know how many projects are in line. We've heard downtown digital dollars. There's phase 3, phase 4 coming out. Bobby's trying to grow this even more. Don't know how successful it's going to be. There are questions. 100% there are questions, and those are great concerns. But the reward is going to be substantially higher on something like TXC versus Bitcoin because the risk is higher. So there's a bigger reward. So, don't put rent money on the table in hopes to get a bigger house. Make sure that you are balancing yourself and being careful with what you're risking, because that big risk means that there's potential to not win. But it's really hard to look at this and think that this is not an attainable reach to get up to. And I think this is much more likely than $162,000 Bitcoin. I like looking at likelihoods, and if I'm going to put the risk on the table, I want to make sure that there's a reward. And to me, the reward is greater right now with TXC than some of these other ones. I like these ones. These are my top that I follow: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP. If you go into my picks over here, if we go into the picks, oh, nice little bounce right here on TXC after on that. These are my top 10 cryptos: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, CC, Link, Avalanche, Litecoin, HBAR, TXC, and XLM. These are all ones that I watch. These guys are all more established right now than TXC, so there's less reward on the table because they've already been around the block and they've gone through some of the cycles that TXC still has to go through. So that's how you have to digest it. So hopefully, you're looking at this, and we want to be a part of this. You have to go through this, and you have to go through this to get to that upswing. Oh, that's wrapped. I didn't want to go into the wrapped one. Regular TXC coin. As this volume picks up and more people jump in, there's a little bit of a bounce. That is what you're looking for. What is more likely, $1.30 TXC coin or 162,000 Bitcoin? Not knocking Bitcoin. Great investment. I've bought in plenty of Bitcoin. But, you know, if I was to put money on the table and looking for a return, I'm going to get a bigger reward taking this risk on TXC. So I'm not telling you to do that. Again, risk reward, make sure your appetite is balanced. But with this being such a thin liquidity coin, $5 makes a big difference. And you know, to sit there and put $100 on TXC at 74 cents and getting 75 coins, and for it to go up to $1 on that $100, I'm gonna make 25 bucks. To put $100 on Bitcoin at 90,000 has to go up to make that money. Let's see. 89,000 times 1.25 it'd be 1.3. 89,000 times 1.3. It'd have to go to 116,000. The race for TXC to $1 is the race for Bitcoin to 116 again for a comparable move. So see what happens first. Again, I'm not trying to push anybody into something that is risky, but I just see that there's reward here, and there are levels to get to that could be profitable, especially under $1. Seems like a gift. It's not the risk of what could be. If you look at it, the mine has not gone anywhere. They're still building the mine. They're working on getting more contracts for layer 2 for the downtown digital dollar, for other phases of this rollout. They're still expanding. They're still looking at filling out the mine. They didn't give up on any of it. They're all still going. So as long as there's still action going, you know, how not, and how fast this could really accelerate over these levels and take off. Would be exciting to see, and not trying to say you're going to be Lambo rich, but there's more upside here at the bottom than there is on some other projects. So something to consider. Make sure that the mines are still mining, and then check your risk reward appetite. I'm not trying to push you to put $5,000 in here, but a little can go a lot farther when you have more upside potential. So hope you enjoyed that one. I'm going to try to push out some more videos a little bit more regularly as I was, now that things are kind of settling down again, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.